So my media project. So my media project will be on the heart in the Telltale Heart. It was my literary analysis paper, and I decided that I wanted to do this paper for the media project. So the Telltale Heart is a story by Edgar Allan Poe, and throughout the story, he uses many literary devices to sort of connect to different things and express something in a different way without simply just stating what it is. And the story is about a narrator who visits an old man who is his friend. And essentially, the narrator is just so infatuated by this old man's eye. For some reason, the eye just stands out to the narrator, and it is just so interesting to him. So, the main questions are, like, why is he infatuated with that eye? Why is he so almost involved with this eye? He's talking to it as it is almost a person. And then another thing is the heartbeat in the story. The narrator constantly mentions that he hears a heartbeat throughout the whole story, and it'll get louder sometimes, it may get quiet, he may not hear it at all. So the real question is the heartbeat sound he is hearing real? So the three things that a heartbeat could be, in my opinion, are the narrator's own heartbeat, the narrator's consciousness, and the narrator not being crazy, as he states and as many other people states. The first example is hearing his own heartbeat. When the narrator was going to kill the old man, as Poe states, I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. So that was when the police arrived to the house and they started questioning him about what that sound was that a neighbor mentioned they heard. So that was when he essentially started lying to the police and telling them what it wasn't. It was the old man screaming while being killed, but the narrator chose to lie to the police. This shows that the narrator could be starting to get very nervous, as lying to the authorities makes anyone nervous. Even if you're lying at all, it'll make you nervous, and especially lying to the authorities who you suspect are here because you murdered somebody. It would make you very nervous. And as the narrator states, my head ached and I fancied a ringing in my ear. That right there shows that the narrator is very, very nervous. When he starts hearing a ringing in his ear and he gets a strong headache, that is like the number one thing for being nervous at the moment. As the story continues, the narrator explains that the sound of the heart gets louder and louder, which as the story progresses, the police are staying longer and longer, which makes the narrator more and more nervous, which would make his heart beat faster throughout the whole story. So by the symptoms said by the narrator and all the factors that lead into that, the sound of the heartbeat could just be his own heartbeat. The narrator's consciousness is the second example. So the symbolism, as stated earlier, throughout this whole story, there's symbolism about everything. And the heartbeat itself is a symbol. The heartbeat could represent the narrator's consciousness. And an example for that is at the start of the story, the narrator hears no heartbeat at all, which means he's not nervous at all. He's calm and collected, and he's still just staring at that eye for some reason. But as the story progresses and the narrator eventually kills the man and the police arrive, he starts to hear the heartbeat, which will show his consciousness beginning to show up in him and realize that he did something wrong. And another example is every time the narrator is faced with a tough decision, he hears the heartbeat, which shows him getting nervous every time he has to make a tough decision. Here's a quote from the story. The beating grew louder, louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. Which just shows that him hearing that heartbeat, which he thought was the old man's at the time, he knows that he is very nervous. He said himself, and now a new anxiety seized me. He is now being overtaken by this anxiety, which shows his consciousness in the back of his head, which he's not actively thinking about, is showing you that he is nervous. He knows he did something wrong. And now knowing that, it's his own heartbeat. The next main example I see to the heart is the narrator not being crazy. I've read many articles from other people about stating this narrator is an insane person. He's crazy in the mind. He's got mental problems. And even in the story, it mentions that he may be crazy. He may be insane. But I don't think he is, and here's why I don't think it is. So the first example I'm going to bring up is antisocial personality disorder. I'll move that here. So antisocial personality disorder is a psychology term which I've learned in my class that really intrigued me to learn more about. Antisocial personality disorder is basically where a person can just do many wrong things to society or people in general and hurt them in some type of ways and feel absolutely no remorse to the people that they did it to. It's otherwise known as the psychopath disorder. As mentioned, people show no remorse. They can be narcissistic, sort of, where it's only about themselves and about nobody else. They are very good at manipulating people. They can be very aggressive, and they've also shown to be a failure to do social duties. So like in social workplaces, they fail at that. And to sort of show you, to give examples as to what this personality disorder is, some people that have been diagnosed with it are Nicholas Cruz, who was a school shooter, Ted Bundy, a serial killer, and John Wayne Gacy, who was a serial killer. So that just shows how strong and bad this disorder is. Try to figure out how to make this bigger. Can't fit the whole thing in there, but many people argue that the narrator is crazy, as throughout the whole story he's sort of hearing something that's not there, and he's just killing this old man for absolutely no reason. But with the narrator having an active conscience for everything he does, he can't be crazy. He can't be insane. When waiting for the time to kill the old man, the narrator begins to hear the heartbeat sound, which he explained as growing louder and louder, getting more and more nervous, which is him actively knowing what he is going to do. In a time where a killer would be going to kill a person, or a crazy person would be going to kill a person, they would not be getting nervous at all. They would not hear any heartbeat. They would essentially hear nothing, because as they would show no remorse for anything, there would be no reason that they should be nervous at this moment. When the police arrived, the narrator says in his mind, "I smiled for what had I to fear?" And which means he is showing calmness and ability to hide the murder, whereas a person who was not crazy would just go ahead and straight admit to the murder because they don't care. They have no remorse for the murder that they committed. And an example of that would be in like John Wayne Gacy, who, when the police found out what he was doing, he just said, "Yeah, I did it," and just went on with it. He didn't try to hide it at all because he had no remorse for the killings that he did for people. And as the police stayed longer, the narrator states, "I felt myself getting pale and wished him gone," which proves that he is actively aware and is showing no remorse for what he did. With him doing that, him again having that active consciousness in the back of his mind, he cannot have antisocial personality disorder because he is feeling remorse for this old man that he just killed for no reason and hiding his body. With him beginning to be nervous around police, that shows that he cannot have this personality disorder and therefore is not insane. So recap. Numerous concepts in the story are symbolized by the heartbeat. Those three are, each time the narrator does something bad, he begins to hear the heartbeat, which proves to be his own heartbeat from him being nervous about the situation. Another example is that the heartbeat is the narrator's consciousness by the narrator having feelings of guilt and fear. So by the narrator hearing the heartbeat after times of situations, it shows the consciousness in the back of his mind knowing that he did something wrong. And the narrator is not insane, as he states, because him being able to hear the heartbeat and the feelings of guilt prove that he is not insane because of antisocial personality disorder and what that disorder states a crazy person would be. These are my works cited page. I'll research more on antisocial personality disorder from this website. And that's my pledge.